Alrighty guys, it is Qaaman here today, and I'm bringing you another Q&A. As you guys know that it is already that time of the week again, and in this, I'm obviously going to do half Twitter, for the first part of the, Q&A, and then for the other half, I'm also going to answer the Ask FM questions. And for the Ask FM questions, I'm going back this time. So without wasting any more time, let's get straight into this video. So the first question is by Rhymestyle. I'm pretty sure most of you know who he is. And he wants to know, I have a question. If Piccolo had chopsticks as a weapon, kind of like how Goku had the power pole, do you think he'd be invincible? Well... The thing is, everybody likes to troll me with this. If Piccolo had chopsticks as a weapon, considering that he could stretch his arms, extremely long distances, I'm pretty sure that he could be pretty invincible. So that's a great question, Dino. Alright, let's see. Toasty's just like responding to that. He also wants to know, you won't come fight me on One Piece. I don't play One Piece Pirate Warriors, so I'm sorry, unfortunately I don't know much about that game. Alright, so Duct Tape, of course he's gonna say something slick. Why is it that Piccolo's useless ass gets so much screen time when the only important Namekian is Dende? Well, you know what? Guess what, Duct Tape? Piccolo fused with Kami, and he still has some relevance to the series, because as you know, in Dragon Ball Super right now, he's going to be selected as one of the 5 fighters who's going to fight against Team Champa. So you know what, Duct Tape? You could go kiss it. Alright, Goodnight Moon wants to know, better bald head, Saitama, Master Roshi, Tien, or Krillin? Well, I mean, I'd have to say that Krillin usually has hair. He had to get his hair cut. Tien has almost always, he's basically always been bald, and Master Roshi used to have hair too, so I'm gonna have to go with Tien. I don't really know much about Saitama. I know he's from One Punch Man, so based off of what I know, I'm gonna go with Tien, simply because of the fact that I feel like, he's always been bald. He seems like the most natural bald person, even though he might have hair. And I also think it'd be kind of weird if Tien had hair, considering he has like a third eye on his head. So I'm gonna have to go with Tien. How would you like a filler episode showcasing the Dragon Ball gang hanging out, like eating, dancing, and posing contests? Well, that'd be fun. I mean, I've always been a fan of, like, a lot of the, I guess, peaceful times of Dragon Ball, like when Goku's like celebrating to, after Majin Buu was defeated and he's like trying to help like those dinosaurs, at the end of the series, or, like, whenever you have like just time just watching the characters. I think it's fun, but I just think too much of it could kind of bore fans. But a good episode every now and then is fun. Hiei versus Tapion in a sword battle. I'm gonna have to, well, if we're strictly talking swords, I mean, man, I'd have to go with Hiei because of experience. But I mean, this isn't fair because, if Tapion is a super fighter in the Dragon Ball world, I mean, his speed and his ability to fly gives him a significant advantage over Hiei. So, I mean, if you're just going by Dragon Ball, Tapion would kill him in 2 seconds without blinking. But, I mean, Hiei, in terms of fighting, I mean, he has so much experience. I'd just give him the edge in a pure sword fight. Thundershot wants to know, you pee every time you crap, but you don't crap every time you pee. Can you explain that? Well, I think that has to do with the position of how you take a piss or a shit. I mean, if you think about it, if you could sit on the toilet and, just let it out at the same time. But I mean, if you... taking a leak as a guy, this applies to guys. If you take a leak as a guy, it'd be kind of weird if you're also crapping at the same time, unless you're peeing first to crap by naturally sitting down, because there's a lot of guys who like to pee sitting down. So this is a very interesting question, Thundershot, and I really appreciate this very intelligent question, because it really makes you question whether or not, peeing or taking a shit first is actually the right way to go. Alright, Mike Warren from Laughingstock Media wants to know, Qaaman is Namekian, so he doesn't eat food. That's why he lives in Antarctica. Probably doesn't know what crap is. Okay, Mike, funny. Why does Piccolo fear sushi restaurants so much? Is it because he got his ass handed to him by chopsticks? That's rhetorical, by the way. So, Mike from Laughingstock Media wants to know, why does Piccolo fear sushi restaurants so much? Is it because he got his ass handed to him by chopsticks? That's rhetorical, by the way. Well, Mike, you could go choke on one for asking this question, but I'm going to answer this by saying Piccolo does not fear sushi restaurants, and he was holding back against Beerus if you're trying to make a inside joke about Battle of Gods, because no matter what anybody says, he wore his weighted clothing, so by default he was holding back. Alright, good night, Moon. I would answer your question, but I've already answered like 3 of yours, so I gotta give other people a chance here. Mr. Iceman93 wants to know which villain from DBZ has the best chance of killing Goku in Super with training based on their abilities and fighting style. Well, this is kind of an open-ended question because you're saying which villain from DBZ has the best chance. I mean, this is kind of weird because in terms of power, I mean, Goku and Vegeta are, with the god forms and everything, they're way past them now. So strictly talking in terms of power, I can't see anybody doing it. But in terms of just, if everybody was on a level playing field, and in terms of abilities, I'd have to go with Cell because, I mean, Cell could regenerate. He could use instant transmission. Cell basically knew everybody's techniques, and he's willing to blow himself up to get stronger. So I'm gonna have to go with Cell. I mean, the only way to beat Cell is by basically just being a lot stronger than him, which is what Gohan was. Alright, Legendary Negro Saiyan wants to know, will you go on a Skype date with me? I'll be naked in nothing but a Naruto headband. Well, it seems like I've had quite a few amount of silly questions in this Q&A. I'm sorry, I'm not into having Skype dates with other men. I apologize, Legendary Negro Saiyan. Alright, he says, I'm almost at 2K subscribers. I was just wondering if you like bacon. Yes, I like bacon. I don't eat it that much because it's not healthy. But bacon is just fine. Waleed Vegeta wants to know, do you think we might see in Dragon Ball Super? I don't know what this question is, sorry. Yeah, I'd see what? I don't know what you're talking about, what we will see. Alright, let's see. Josh wants to know, I have a Q. Why do you think Govan has basically turned into the Yamcha of Dragon Ball Super? I'm pretty sure he meant Gohan, because the V is not that far from the H. And he can't do anything anymore. Don't hate me, Gohan fans. Well, I mean, honestly, like I said in the previous Q&A, Gohan's past his time, He had his shine, building up throughout the series. He had his whole big thing against Cell, and he's an irrelevant character now. He's still going to be stronger than, most of the Z fighters, but, like, Gohan's just not relevant anymore. I mean, the story doesn't want him to be, like I said before, this is like Digimon Season 4, where Takuya and Koji are so much stronger than everybody else is irrelevant. So, it's basically just writing, dude. If they want to make Gohan relevant again, they can. They did that in the Buu Saga. He was weaker than basically everybody, and they made him relevant by giving him Ultimate Gohan. So, it's all about the writing, dude. Alright. I have no idea how to pronounce his first name, but Fubar wants to know who would win in a fight, Android 13 versus Imperfect Cell. Well, Super Android 13 is kind of a weird movie because, I mean, this actually might be my featured question. Good question, Cthulhu Fubar. I'm going to have to say, I'm going to give an edge to Super Android 13. And the reason why I'm saying this, well, first of all, you wanted to know both regular and super form. Well, if you're going by regular, I'm going to have to go with Cell. Because, I mean, once Goku turned Super Saiyan, it seemed like he had the edge. But, I mean, when you're talking about Super Android 13, once he absorbed them, I mean, the Z fighters were basically punching him and it wasn't even shaking him. Whereas, and Piccolo at this time should theoretically be stronger than Goku, Trunks and Vegeta, even though, it's inconsistent because of the timeline placement, because how long does it take place after this? The whole movie was based off of a what if on, the Z fighters finding some other means to defeat the androids, and that's how those were able to come out. It doesn't make complete sense, but if we're going with Super Android 13, the fact that Goku had to absorb a spirit bomb, to defeat him, and because of how irrelevant the others were in hitting him and damaging him, even though Piccolo's power scaling is kind of off, I'm gonna have to go with, Super Android 13 versus Imperfect Cell. I mean, And I'm thinking about the imperfect cell that fought Piccolo. Now, are we talking about the imperfect cell that, almost killed, Android 16 and, Piccolo? I mean, if and absorbed Android 17, the cell that absorbed a bunch of humans and got stronger. If we're going by that cell, man, that's tougher. But I'm still probably gonna have to go with, Super Android 13, because I mean, having to absorb a spirit bomb to defeat an opponent is a huge thing, and like the other Z fighters, like all of them fighting together, were completely no match. This was a great question. And to close out my Twitter, I'm gonna answer Matthew Universal, who says, is it true that there is a 1-year time limit to bring someone back with the Dragon Balls? Yes, if you're going by the Earth Dragon Balls. And you know what, James Leverton, I'm just gonna answer yours too. How strong would Gohan be if he continued to train after the Cell games, and how would this change the events? Well, I kind of already made a video on this loosely, but man, I mean, if Gohan continued to train, I mean, he'd probably be stronger than, Dabura easily. We're not to what degree would he have had to have trained to be stronger than Fat Boo is up for grabs, because he'd still have to significantly increase his power just to beat Fat Boo, and he might need Super Saiyan 3. But I mean, I'm pretty sure he would have probably taken out Dabura easily, and then he wouldn't have to worry about the whole hatching. So I'm gonna have to say that for Gohan. And wow, these are a lot of good questions. All right, advice for someone in college that has no idea how to do it in life. I mean, honestly, boner soup. I'm gonna just have to say that if you're in college and you don't know what to do in life, I mean, just do something that makes you happy. I love YouTube. It's a fun thing to do, but I also understand that, this isn't something that could last forever. I can't see me doing videos in my 50s or 60s, But this is a good question. I mean, my general advice to you in life is just experiment and do what you truly find passionate and fun to do. You guys have taught me that speaking to people is one of my, my hobbies. So I'll definitely have to say that's something of a career I'd like to do, even though I'm still a pretty young guy and I haven't made all my decisions. And finally, I'm going to definitely make this my final question for Twitter. Michael wants to know, will you do a vid concerning Kobe's retirement? It's a pretty big deal. What are your thoughts? I'm gonna bring back sports videos on my channel. It's just I've been trying to get caught up on a lot of other stuff. But I mean, in terms of Kobe's retirement, he's next Dwayne Wade, LeBron James, Kobe, Kevin Durant, even though he's younger than those guys, Carmelo, those guys have, even though Kobe's more of the older generation, I think of Kobe as a younger guy from the old generation that included Ray Allen, Dirk Nowitzki, Paul Pierce, guys like that. I mean, he's one of the best players of this era, and it's kind of weird because the NBA is going to look different without him, and the Lakers are going to be a completely different team because he's been with that team for 20 years. Fans have basically made it life to go watch Kobe. I mean, the guy came into the league at 17 and he's 37, which means he spent most of his human life in the NBA. So, man, I mean, it's big. I'm going to have to say that, man, I don't know. It's crazy, but you know what? It makes sense because, I mean, clearly his production's falling off this year. His numbers are terrible. And, it's just his time to hang it up. Father time hits you whenever you don't want it to. So this basically concludes my Twitter question portion, guys. I'm going to go to Ask FM in just a few moments. Alrighty, guys, I am back with my Ask FM portion. I'm going to try to make this around 25 minutes to balance it out with all my Twitter questions. So the first question is, why does Frieza and his father assume they were the strongest in the universe? Obviously, it was on a zero basis of evidence. Even Earthlings were able to create beings far stronger than him. I mean, if you're talking about Earthlings, you definitely mean Oob. I mean, there's no clear-cut evidence that Tien, Krillin, and Yamcha got stronger than Frieza. I still believe they're weaker than him. I think that at the max, maybe Tien, after those years of training in the Buu Saga when he came back to help Gohan, I think maybe Tien was probably, I mean, I could see him being close to what Frieza was on Namek, but stronger than him is not clear-cut. But, I mean, if you're talking about why they assume they're the strongest beings, I mean, obviously it was the writing. Beerus was not created back then, and somebody was asking me a similar question the other day. Why did, Frieza call himself the strongest in the universe, but yet Beerus existed? Well, the honest answer is that Toriyama wrote that, over 20 years ago versus, this whole Beerus thing that just came up as a new story. It's the same thing with, like, how all of a sudden Bulma has a sister named Tights and Vegeta has a brother named Tarble. It doesn't make any sense. But the honest reason is because it was written earlier. That's the reason. But if you want to talk about it, it's probably just self-confidence because they probably haven't encountered anybody who rivaled their power outside of obviously Beerus and Majin Buu. But that, like I said before, it's all writing. If they say it before, it's going to cause inconsistencies. If future Trunks came to the past again to visit the Buu Saga, how would you imagine his role would become in helping defeat Majin Buu? Jordan Nichols, good question. I made an entire video on that. It's one of my more popular videos called What If Future Trunks Came Back During the Buu Saga? So please check out that video. I went extremely in depth with that, and there would be major changes. I'll probably post that in the outro for you guys to check out if you want to see it. Replace Gohan with Goten in the Cell Saga. How strong would Goten be after the hyperbolic time chamber, or as Super Jane Geekdom and Hail Zeon might want to say, the Room of Spirit and Time? If you replace Gohan with Goten in the Cell Saga, well, I mean, I'm probably gonna have to, okay, we don't know how much hidden power Goten has. That's the hard thing, and Blackenfist and I have disagreed on this, because I said that theoretically Goten has more potential than Gohan, but he says, well, Gohan, had more hidden power versus Goten just being strong. And there's a huge difference, and here's my thing, guys. The fact that Goten trained with an inexperienced child in Trunks and Chi-Chi and was already as strong as what he was, and he could go Super Saiyan at 7 is already talking about his potential. Now, you might look at potential versus hidden power as different things, because what I'm basically saying is Goten was significantly stronger than what Gohan was at the same age. But if you compare, like, both of them at 9, then Gohan would have been way stronger than what Goten was because of Super Saiyan 2. So, even though there's some inconsistencies, if Goten had the hidden power or the ability to turn into a Super Saiyan 2, I'm going to have to say he'd probably be stronger than Gohan. Because if we're going by the same age, considering that Goten would have already have had Super Saiyan at the age of 7, Goku, even though this is more along the lines of the anime, the manga didn't emphasize this almost to any extent about how Gohan was basically holding Goku back in his training until he became a Super Saiyan. That means Goten and Goku could go in and start training at a significantly, faster level. And I think that, if Goten were to come out, if he could go Super Saiyan 2 and defeat Cell, wow, that could have made a bigger difference. So I'm gonna have to say Goten, if he could go Super Saiyan 2, which is a big if, because Gohan went Super Saiyan 2 because of his hidden potential. If Goten could somehow tap into Super Saiyan 2, I think he could be way stronger than what Gohan was, because of the fact that he was already so strong to just begin with. But this is a big debate, and I'm going to probably readdress this topic in the future, probably like who has more potential, Gohan or Goten. I'll probably bring in Josh for that one, but this is a great question, Jordan Nichols. But I'm going with Goten being stronger if he could go Super Saiyan 2. How is the God of Destruction selected, and how does the servant also change, or does Whis stay forever as a servant of the God of Destruction? We don't know. They really haven't said anything. We for sure know that Whis is like the assistant to the, the God of Destruction, similar to what, Vados is for Champa. But, we don't know how it's selected. Hopefully Super explains it later on, but I'm sorry, man. I can't give you any headcanon here, as Hail Zeon would say. It's just, I don't know. It's all up for grabs. If they never explain why, I'll do a theory video on it. If Vegeta had learned the Kaioken technique at the start of the Namek Saga, how differently would his fights on Namek have been? Obviously it would have been easier for him, but for example against Raccoon, would he have won that fight? Yeah, you gotta think if he could just use Kaioken times 2, that's instantly putting him ahead of Raccoon. I mean, Goku was just starting to power up against Captain Ginyu and was already vastly, ascending him in power. So you got to think what Vegeta could do, even if Vegeta's weaker than Goku. If he knew Kaioken, Zarbon, everybody, he wouldn't have lost to Zarbon first, and he definitely wouldn't have lost to Raccoon. I mean, if he could use at least like a 3 or 4 times multiplier, he's already beating Ginyu. So there would have been no shot for the rest of them. In GT, would the fusion of Gohan and Oob have defeated Omega Shenron in your opinion, or no? No way. I mean, maybe hold him off for a few minutes like what they were doing, but defeat him? I mean, I'm sorry. Like, you got to think about it like this. I mean, if Gohan and Oob fused, or if Gohan and fused with anybody, Goten Trunks fused into an adult Gotenks, I mean, you're talking about Omega Shenron. I mean, the Super Saiyan 4 Goku and Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta are way above like any of the other Z fighters, and they fused and they were able to basically trounce Omega Shenron, but they were a Super Saiyan 4 fusion. So when you look at the fact that it's requiring that much power to defeat Omega Shenron, even though Goku did have his moments against Omega Shenron, how he basically like did his Dragon Fist and stuff, I'm saying no way. Gohan and Oob are just way too weak. Like, their power scaling compared to Goku and Vegeta is so much lower that, I mean, if they fused, I just can't see them possibly being able to do it. I just can't. Why was Master Roshi's power sort of capped off at such low levels after many years of training and learning new techniques compared to other humans such as Yamcha and Krillin, who are thousands of times more powerful? Well, I do agree with you that Yamcha, Krillin, and even Tien are much stronger than Roshi, later on. That's why I think it makes no sense for Yamcha to not be in that fight over Roshi, because I still think Yamcha should be a lot stronger than Master Roshi at this point. So because of that, I'm going to have to say, I mean, if his power capped off, you could factor in age because he's not a young guy, but I basically think it's because Master Roshi doesn't really seem like he trains much. I mean, from the times that we see him, Piccolo, Tien, those guys seem to, consistently keep training over the years. But Master Roshi, I think it's because of training. I mean, maybe he could get stronger and learn new techniques, but I mean, he just can't compete with the other Z fighters, because you also got to consider those Z fighters went through extreme circumstances to get stronger, I mean, they basically learned everything they could, from Dragon Ball, and just basically trained with each other who were already stronger. And then, when you factor in the afterlife and all the additional things that they went through afterwards, all of their extreme, training circumstances really helped them get, to levels that Roshi could just never compete with. I mean, Roshi never trained with King Kai or any of these guys. So that's what I would say is the main thing. What is it about Super Saiyan 3 that Vegeta could never reach during the series? I did a whole video on this. You should check that out. Why can't Vegeta turn Super Saiyan 3? I mean, I don't think it's anything about it. I just don't think Toriyama really wrote him to be a Super Saiyan 3, because you gotta think that if Vegeta is now becoming a Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan Blue, pure Super Saiyan God, whatever you want to call it, Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan Blue, you got to look at it like this. If he's becoming that powerful and he's like now on like a God tier, Super Saiyan 3 is irrelevant. Like, it's kind of like this, and even though Vegeta, Super Saiyan 4 is different because he didn't have a tail, it's kind of like, well, he never went Super Saiyan 3, but he could go Super Saiyan 4, even though Super Saiyan 4 is not a normal Super Saiyan transformation. It's like, why do I even need 3? So, the whole thing I'm saying here is this, Jordan Nichols. Vegeta, basically, in both going through GT and Super and the movies, he's had the ability to tap into either Super Saiyan 4 or Super Saiyan God transformations. So at this point, Super Saiyan 3 is irrelevant, and I think he just wasn't written to do it. I think he just never really got the ability, so I don't know. Good question, though, Jordan Nichols. Chaozu versus Magneto. I'm gonna have to go with Chaozu. I mean, Chaozu's still very, very powerful for his own right. I mean, Magneto, he's good at, you know, using metal to his advantage, but Chaozu's like a super fighter compared to most, you know, characters in fiction. So I'm gonna have to go with Chaozu, or Chaozu, sorry. All right, and let's take 4 more quick ones. Let's take 5 more quick ones. I'll be generous. When or if Oob is introduced into Super, how strong will he be? I'm sure he would have to be as powerful as first appearance Goku Battle of Gods, considering the time placement in the series. I don't think Oob's going to be shown in Super, because if you think about it, I mean, if he's shown in Super, he's going to have to be, I mean, Oob appeared for the first time near the very end of Z. And Super is supposed to take place in this 10-year gap in between Goku beating Buu and the end of Z. So I don't think Oob's going to show up at all. But if he is, I mean, he's going to be weaker if he shows up, considering that's when this story's supposed to take place. Now, if Super extends past, you know, Z's ending, I'm going to have to answer this question another time. But I don't think Oob's going to show up. How does Toriyama plan on tying in the end of Dragon Ball Z with Super? I mean, with the introduction of Oob, which will be somewhat random by the time in the series, why introduce a character such as Oob without continuing Super further past Z? I mean, honestly, like I said, like, Super is taking place in the middle. And, you know, to answer your question, Jordan Nichols asked a lot of questions. Wow, I didn't realize how many questions he asked. But, I mean, here's the thing. Oob, he's not going to show up, but if he does, I mean, what is he really going to do? I mean, there's only so much his character can do, because, I mean, he has to go through training with Goku, so his power is going to be limited. All right, so Jordan, you've you know, put a lot of questions on here, but I'm going to move on to give other people a chance. You know, I'm just going to make this a 30-minute one. I was trying to shorten it a little bit, but some of these questions were really fun to answer. All right, let's see. Let's go down here. Okay, let's get one from the Warveal Crook. I don't know why, but I keep thinking that Tights is Jocko's booty call. During this point in the series, she should be in her 50s, so I guess they maybe had a thing or Jocko wasn't interested. I mean, it would be a weird relationship. I mean, I understand Vegeta's an alien and so is Goku to Chi-Chi and Bulma, but, you know, Saiyans have a similar physiology to that of the human. So, you know, with that said, I don't know. They can find something more similar, because Goku and Vegeta look like humans who just originally had tails and had weird hairstyles. You know, with, you know, a slight tan. And there's a lot of people who have much bigger tans, you know. Ask Killa or ask General Black. Alright, let's see. What if the animals have secrets to the universe? If you talk to them, I don't think animals would have any secrets. I mean, you know, the whole thing about sapient or sentient thinking, you know, really goes a long way. So I don't think, you know, it'd really have any role in that. Okay, let's see. Big D said on his Twitter, and I agree with him, that this is the DBZ community in 2015. The real is on the rise. Fuck them other guys. I even gave them a chance to decide. The Warveal Crook again. I mean, honestly, Geekdom has his master plan for the Dragon Ball community. He doesn't like certain people, and he does like certain people, and, you know, he, alongside, you know, his allies, he wants to take them out. I'm not going to say his plan. If he watches this video, he'll say it himself. Alright, let's see. Leonard Leandro wants to know, hey, this may seem silly, but do you think Dragon Ball locators would work on stone Dragon Balls? They always wait until the Dragon Balls are useful again before searching, but I always thought that that was because they didn't want to yet. I don't remember them stating they couldn't. What do you think? I mean, I've always felt like it was a signal, but that does make sense. Like, when they turn to stone, how are they, you know, how are they still giving off signals? I mean, the thing is, you know, the balls are inert, as Piccolo would say. I mean, honestly, Bulma just probably identified some signal that even if they're in stone, the position of where they were, you know, would still allow them to do it. I don't know. That's a good question. Or if I'm forgetting the detail, please say so in the comment section. But very good question, bro. Alright, so let's answer these final 3 questions here. This 4th one, if I count this one. Hey, what's up? Damn, bro, too many racist comments on this. Hats off to you for keeping your cool. Honestly, if people are racist and, you know, they want to say something stupid, that just tells me how ignorant they are. They're screaming ignorance on their own face by posting racist comments. So that has nothing to do with me. What if Boo absorbed Beerus? I mean, I can't see how he would be able to do it, you know, considering the power difference, or, you know, considering, you know, Beerus could probably easily get out of it. But, I mean, if he did, I mean, man, I'm gonna have to say that he'd probably get insanely strong. I mean, you're talking about a god of destruction plus a Majin. I mean, that would have insane power and abilities. I'm gonna have to say that would be ridiculous. I mean, think about all of Majin Buu's abilities mixed in with Beerus. That'd be crazy. Crazy, crazy powerful. I think, I mean, I don't know how strong he would be, but I mean, Whis would probably have to take him out for all likelihood. And the final question is, do you think that 17 was 17 years old and 18 was 18 years old when Jiro worked on them? Well, it was stated that they were twins. I mean, I don't think the number has anything to do with it because that's when they were created. I mean, if you think about it, you know, was Android 16 years old? Come on. It's just numbers. Alright, so guys, it looks like that's going to basically conclude it for today. I mixed in, you know, having a good Twitter mix alongside Ask FM, and I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm going to be trying to do these every week, and I hope you guys enjoyed this Q&A. Pop in more questions for next week whenever I post that Twitter response, and I hope you guys enjoyed. And please check out my intro, because I always post some cool videos that you guys might want to check out there that you might not have seen before. So most importantly, over everything else, please remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. And remember, as I always say, to have a great day, guys.